All right. And so I just welcome you all here today to this foundational workshop with tarot. And so I'm going to be sharing my screen in a moment, but I just do want to let you know that it is interactive, or I do welcome your feedback, your questions at any point. We're an intimate group, right? And so at any point, should you have a clarifying question or your insights, they are very much welcomed. It is as well important to develop this relationship with the tarot, but also within communication. And that's the sort of point of having a workshop, right? And so I thank you for joining. And at the same time, should you need to step away or turn your camera off or anything like that, that's also totally fine. You can definitely have your tarot deck out. If you don't have one out, I know Marissa, you're driving, so no need. You can just listen along and follow the recording later, okay? Some of the images in your mind, perhaps. Maybe you'll see some of the archetypal images on billboards or something of that sort, right? Feel free to have tea or water or just what have you, okay? And so again, Marissa, please drive safely, but I am going to do, before I start with the slides, we will just sort of drop in, if that's all right for everyone. And, just with some breath work, we can take, we're gonna close our eyes, except for Marissa, keep our eyes on the road. And so I invite you to sort of just close your eyes, roll your shoulders a bit. Maybe in one direction, at another point, you can roll them in the other direction. We're looking within and honoring the silence, the darkness of our interiority. I burn Palo Santo to create an opening for this space, for this workshop, honoring the significance of us in this present moment on Venus's day, to look more and to dive deeper into ourselves. And so I burn the smoke, calling in the four directions: the direction of the north, of the swords, mental clarity, of truth. I burn this smoke as an offering to water, to the west, to the cups, to release and renewal. I burn this smoke, calling in the element of earth, of pentacles, of the body, of somatics, of nourishment, nurturing. I burn the smoke as an offering, calling in the wands, passion and vitality and fire and vision. If we can take another inhale in deeply, and an exhale, we call in the fifth element, the heart space, the soul space, acknowledging our inner archetype, our inner constellation, blossoming into fullness in this lifetime. Right. And so I always, you can flutter your eyes open when you're ready. I like to always start any session or any class or any consultation just with calling in the four elements, and a little bit of breathing and intentionality. And so I'm going to be sharing my screen now. And so you all can see this PDF. It says Signifiers, who am I in the tarot, correct? If you could give me a thumbs up or anything, just so I know. Okay, great, thank you. All right, and so yes, who am I in the tarot, right? Who am I? Who are we in the tarot? And so we're going to be exploring this. We're going to be looking at the tarot as a sort of mirror, right? And so the topics we'll discuss are the personal card, the personality card, the lesson and opportunity cards, our soul card, as well as the zodiacal associations, the court cards, the personal years that we're going through, the collective years card that we're going through, and then significators, right? And so I've got this quote here, right? Man's mind mirrors the universe that mirrors man's mind. And so a lot of this work is really just informed by Mary Kay Greer's book, Archetypal Tarot, right? But a little bit of expansion, a little bit of differentiation. But I do recommend that book in the most recent edition, should you want to go further with any of these concepts. And you will get, I'll be sending an extra little worksheet. I'll be sending these slides, a copy of the recording when the workshop is done, as well as some questions for further sort of inquiry. And so Mary Kay Greer writes, "You're composed of many facets or different aspects of self. Each of these has its own set of skills and abilities that you can more easily access once you recognize them. Getting to know the cards that best represent you teaches you about these selves and gives you more options for effective and meaningful action in the world. It also increases your compassion and understanding about the differences in how other people function. And so that is the aim of this workshop, right? Is to have these many mirrors and this multiplicity of self that we know ourselves to be, right? And to also begin a relationship with the tarot, or to deepen a relationship with the tarot by knowing who we are in the cards and how we show up and when we show up. And so, I mean, just as a brief, for instance, like I'll get from learning that the Two of Swords was my Libra moon was very helpful when I would pull the Two of Swords. It gave me a different and like a more of a warmth with the Two of Swords than, you know, you might otherwise feel when you pull the Two of Swords. And so knowing that that's sort of an archetypal card for my own lunar placement, again, deepened my relationship with the cards and gave me an image to meditate on how I may withhold, to pacify or to keep the peace within like an interpersonal relationship, right? And so also when I know that, and sometimes that comes up is just like my moon, you know, in a particular reading. And so some beginning principles anyhow. I have a Mars in Sag as well, and I can go off on tangents and overshoot and be very exuberant. So please don't mind me. But some principles here, right? Correspondences are esoterically and imaginally significant. All right. So we are corresponding our birth chart placements, our sort of soul energy to these cards, and they are esoterically and imaginally by the image significant. Thus, they are incomprehensible to the rational and scientific mind. And so really anytime we're engaging the tarot and we shuffle the cards, we are submitting the logical mind to the chaotic randomness of the draw, thereby forcing us into the openness of sort of the divine feminine, of the darker mystery of the high priestess's teaching, which weaves together these subtle synchronicities, right, out of apparent chaos. And it loosens our grip, or loosens the grip of the rational scientific mind, which seeks to have an order and fix a meaning upon things based upon our perspective, like our one fixed perspective, right? And so this is what we're venturing into, the chaotic in a sense, into the enigmatic, into the mysterious. We listen, right, and open to these things. The tarot is powerful through its offering of internal, emotion-laden symbols and images of the psyche. And so you all may be familiar with your birth chart, may have seen your birth chart or may have not, or you may be familiar with words or theories or all of the such, right? And yet tarot is distinct in that it gives you a provocative image to trigger a whole host of response within you, right? The cards themselves are also, as I work with them, yantras, meaning that they are portals into the divine. You can place them intentionally as well upon your altar, or upon just working with them or meditating on them for a long period of time, however long, right? And really enter into this alternate psychic space, which can then really shift some things internally and really give you a deeper inner landscape to make sense of some of your experience, some of your relationships, and some of your purpose in this world. These images broaden our exploration, inspiration, motivation, and action in the world. Again, by giving us more space, giving us more creativity, different personalities, different personas to see ourselves reflected in within our cards and within our own specific tarot decks. I am basing this off of the Rider-Waite Smith Pamela Coleman deck, which is very popular. You know, it's sort of one of the major, it's sort of the model that many of the modern tarot decks being created now, and there's a very much proliferation of tarot decks being created, which is amazing. But they all have sort of this basis with the Rider-Waite Smith deck. The Marseille is a different style. It's a bit more historical, but there is still the major arcana there. They switch 8 and 11. And so just so you know, that is what I'm working with. But I do, obviously, your deck, that whatever you're drawn with, whether that's a traditional deck or a variation, that is also a further specificity that your soul or that your innate energy is surfacing and summoning these various images to work with. All right. And so of course, try the techniques, keep what works, leave the rest as always, right? This is not, so you don't, this is from Mary Kay Greer, it's an adaptation. It's like, try it out, see what you think about it. Thank you again for all being here. And so we will proceed. All right, so our personal card. And so in the email response, in the email confirmation, I did ask you to sort of select a personal card. And this is our starting point, a card which we most closely identify with without needing to know any correspondences, just simply a deep resonance. So we're like before correspondence, right? Like even off the top of your brain, if you did not do so right now, just a card that may be coming to you that you're drawn to. And I would love to hear from everyone, again, to make this interactive, you know, and hear your voice and hear your presence into it. As to a card that you feel drawn to, or that's been on your mind, or that you just have an affinity to, or perhaps like maybe even a repulsion from, or there's just something about it that's confronting, you know, in some manner. I've done some of these exercises with my students. I'm teaching a full tarot course right now, and it was interesting to see their personal cards were also their like personality or soul cards. And so I'm curious about that. Thank you for sharing. Marissa, I see that you've written the Three of Wands, and so you don't have to speak or anything. I'll just read it out for you unless you would like to again. Okay, I feel like I'll just, so the Three of Wands, that's a great card. It's a minor card. The figure has three wands and their back is sort of turned, like three wands behind them. They're standing between two of them and they're outlooking the whole sort of ocean, and like there's a sense of possibility. And so I don't know if I'm not to speak, I know Marissa also personally as well, so we have a little bit of a prior relationship, everyone's so I'll just share a little bit on that end, but thank you for sharing. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I have the Osho Zen Tarot as well, and like, yeah, that card is amazing. And I think that's like, your story is a great example of like how we can connect with the deck, is like that one image that like draws us in and like makes us want to go out and buy that, or we see a couple images and we're like, oh my gosh, that there's a piece of me there, in a sense, like that is an image that's like deep within me. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. It's a powerful image of just being supported and like sitting in like the state of grace amongst the night sky. And I mean, it very much, I can see the resemblance almost between us and that image, and like this long, like more femme, longer hair flowing, like nude and just back faced and just presented to the stars. Amazing. I love that phrasing, between the realms, like passing it on, like definite high priestess energy. And I think a strong guide for us in times of darkness. You know, she's this correspondent with Persephone, as the mythic tarot describes. And you know, Persephone is this sweet girl picking flowers, and then all of a sudden, like, earth opens up beneath her and she falls and falls and falls down to hell, into the underworld. And it's all of a sudden like, that coat that I had on is not really going to serve me now. Like, I need to sort of like dive deep and like awaken some latent power and potential that I need. And so she's a real powerful image of empowerment through navigating darkness. And so I love that. I think that's beautiful. And so again, these cards, thank you for sharing. A card that I've been working with has been the Star. I mean, all of the cards, it's just really, but the Star has been a major one. I'm going through my Saturn return right now. The Star is, as we will see, is associated with Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn. And I think it's such a beautiful image of Saturn in being this stripping away, this getting to the root, and like cleansing the self of its emotional trauma and burdens, and like restoring a sense of vulnerability, a sense of worthiness, and like being freed from shame. And then being in alignment with one's soul purpose, which is specific to my chart, and also my Saturn, like in Aquarius, the top of my chart. And I just think it's like a healthy image to sort of work with through an also difficult time. And so, you know, I offer these cards too, is again, just points of sort of memory, is like the anchor point, the seed of your beginning work with the tarot, right? Like, pay attention when this card comes up, like deep in the relationship with this card. This is sort of the guide or the friend or the one who can show up with you. Maybe if your practice is diminishing, or you're in a really difficult period, or you someone says the high priestess, or someone says the magician, someone says the 3 of Wands or something like that, and it's coming up to pull you into that, to help you remember that relationship. Again, it may depict an ideal self, an aspect you feel comfortable with, or a part that is hidden from others, perhaps a self-image you struggle to express, or one you may try to reject. And so creating a dialogue, there are questions. Again, I'll be sending you some questions that Mary Kay Greer has outlined for the personal card. But she offers us some ways to create a dialogue by asking, how can I use this symbol in my life right now? Right. And so we've got some magician energy, some manifestation energy. Maybe you can bring in, literally construct your magician's table in your altar and have, whatever it is you're trying to manifest, and bring in the corresponding elements, asking why you're so attracted to them, and really talking directly to the card, right? And writing out the response, like actually vocalizing this. I'm holding the card in your hand, like letting the card have the heartbeat in response to whatever is being evoked or summoned from within you, right? How can I triumph through the qualities depicted? And this made me think of all of the cards. I mean, all of these cards, either through peace or through some sort of empowerment, some embrace of the darkness, through an open perspective with the 3 of Wands, an expansive perspective, a state change. Okay, why did I choose to dialogue with you? Even asking yourself that, like, what did I have to say to you? What about me wants to speak with you, right? Addressing the particular figure or object with whom you're dialogue, and what do you have to teach me? These are great, I think, questions for like any cards that may be repeaters or anything of that sort. And so we're going to go into personality and soul cards now, right? So it's sort of a simple technique, but still it's like to be clarified, and I would love to hear from everyone to calculate. Okay. So you're going to just add together the month, the day, and the year of your birth. So we're going to use the beloved Audre Lorde as an example. And she was born February 18th, 1934. So you're going to do just like regular old addition arithmetic, adding down. Okay, so we would get, once we add 2 plus 18 plus 1934, 1954. Okay, and then you would combine those digits. And I'll stop there, letting you get to there. Okay. And so also, while we go through this, if you can, like, find the cards in your deck, and like as we're going, building the constellation, if you will, as we go, so you can sort of like literally have the images in front of you, or again, just write them down and note them. You can work with them at some point. And so, yes, go ahead and calculate them. And so we are looking at a corresponding major arcana card here, okay? So for Audre, since she got 19, her major arcana card is the Sun card, which I just love. Any number between 1 and 22 is your personality card and corresponds to a major arcana card, okay? And so again, this is the personality card. So you might want to write that down too, right? Personality card, and this is indicating the characteristics that are inherent to your being. They are part of your essential nature, and we often develop their characteristics early in life, refining them with age. It is personal identity and sense of self. And so in this way, you can think of this card, if it's 1 between, we'll share in a moment and like clarify, but you can think of this card sort of as more of a lunar card as well, being in that it's about your self-image, your personality, your more day-to-day, or also like an ascendant card if you're familiar with the language of astrology, and how you're navigating and moving through the world. And so if you had a double digit between 1 and 22, that's a personality card. And then if you have a single digit, like for me, I get 7 when I combine because it's like 2014. And so then my personality and my soul card are the same, right? And so also, if you did get a double digit, like 19, you would combine them to get the soul card. Okay, so you'd reduce them even further. So there's a sort of distillation process happening, right? We're refining to even a core, like a more core essence, okay? And so it also, if you got a number larger than 22, there are only 22 major cards, right? And so we must reduce us to a single digit as well. And so there again, we get our personality card, and our soul cards would be the same. And so the soul card is like a root card, right? It's soul. It even has that name in it, soul, sun, right? Being solar. The sun is like, if we are this lunar plant on the earth, right? Because the moon gives manifestation, gives us the body, right? And we are growing towards the sun. We're growing towards our soul purpose in this lifetime. This is what the soul card is representing, right? That impetus, that larger overarching deep desire of the soul, right? That we're striving to express and to embody. And so this is inherent to integrate in order to find fulfillment. It is a sort of sense of soul purpose. It's an image of soul purpose. And I think that's just a profound and sort of a large, like, provocative statement to even claim in and of itself. But so I'll share mine. Both my personality and my chariot, my personality card and my soul card of the chariot. And so it reduces to 7. And I've been in a chariot year, which we'll get to next. And so it's been a big year. There's been a lot of that. I have, even in my birth chart, working with fixed stars and like Capella, and it's interesting how like the chariot, even in that specific language, has come through in like various other birth chart readings, not necessarily tied to the natal cards, but about forward movement, about leaving the home, about moving towards like this, being uncomfortable in order to move towards something, like leaving my culture, leaving like the confines of like my earlier circumstances, and like stretching and striving to like establish myself in some new terrain and some new culture, in a state of transition. Also my vehicle, my body, but like, caring for that. And so, okay, we can share in a moment, but I will touch on like if you got 19, as with our beloved Audrey. So in this case, in this one case, you would have 3 cards, right? Because we could reduce 2 times, right? 9 plus 1, getting 10. So then we have the Wheel of Fortune, but then reducing again to get the Magician. And so if you reduce your birthday to 19, then that would be, 19 would be the personality card, 10 would be the soul card, and we can reduce again to the Magician as a sort of teacher card, which Mary Kay Greer goes into a lot more. You can think of this as like a guide, or more of a shadow aspect, or like a hidden aspect of the Wheel of Fortune. I always relate the Wheel of Fortune and the Magician in my course actually as like the Magician being the astrologer and the Wheel of Fortune being the astrology, right? Like the person reading the transits. And so then the sun, the sun is the center of all of that, right? And so, so that's just sort of like a special note. But yes, I'd love to hear from you all, your cards, if you'd like to share, and just how it resonates, how it's sitting with you right now. Like maybe I can offer some insight. The Hierophant is also sort of known as the High Priest,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
So then the Temperance in the middle between the High Priestess and the High Priestess, the High Priest and the High Priest, the Hierophant and the High Priestess. And so I love that, because then Temperance, is this transition of in and out of like solar and lunar, and the High Priest being it's interesting that you did choose the High Priestess, because then the soul card is like this needing to have a direct communion and like embrace of like the darkness and sort of your own private space of communing with the divine, and then being able to be a model and like bring that outwards, like return, like in the hero's journey, like returning to the people, right? And like bringing the gifts of the inner treasure back, and not just staying in the darkness, but like being able to show others, I think, like on a larger purpose and on a larger trajectory, how to recover, how to build ritual in one's life, how to be a record keeper of one's cultural practices.
That's so interesting.
And then the Temperance again is like this state of harmony that is it's an interesting relationship with the Hierophant, because the Hierophant also symbolically or imagely mirrors justice, right? And so there is like evil and like heaven and hell, and like right and wrong, and like what you will and won't do type of thing. But temperance is a type of harmony that is more fluid and like responsive. It's the harmony that is dynamic. And so I think like, yeah, with the card that you're drawn to, which like, again, like the darkness of like chaos and like free flowingness, giving some order, but then like knowing when that order may be too rigid, or when, you know, it may be too wild and unstructured and needing a little bit more order to like make a daily sort of disciplined practice of engaging this darker materia. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, and so the personality cards, I will say, and sometimes they're the same, you know, so that can sort of be like a new moon type of energy when that the sun and the moon are aligning. But the personality card may be something that we're more aware of, or like it's more familiar to us because we like actively like sort of work it out already, or it's like we're already sort of drawn to it in that ascendant type of manner or that lunar type of manner, right? And then the soul card being something we grow into with age or with experience or with exploration. And I think that also highlights again, like we may have the same card indicated, like we may both have the Chariot, but our own decks that we're drawn to give us a distinct soul image, you know. And I think that's like there may be two oak trees, but they're different and they're still distinct and they're still growing in perhaps different places, you know, they're distinct. And so I love that because that is a very distinct Hierophant card, the no thingness, the state. I think that's also the Hierophant being the sort of spiritual guru in some decks, or like this modern notion, and like the state of meditation to reach like this transcendental state of returning to that, and like the master who knows how to return to that state and like let go of the chaos of the mind.
Tell me more about the Hermit, I guess.
And can I ask, are you using the Rider-Waite deck as well?
Oh,
you said I'm sorry,
so.
you said the what is it
Yeah,
called?
it's like a steampunk.
Steampunk.
Deck.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
that is right. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to note that. Okay. Yeah, the Hermit. The Hermit is a big one. You know, that's number 9. You know, so that's the number of completion. That's the divine number of 3, which represents the feminine 3 times over. So there is this state of pulling away from the social group and like the direction of your peers and the direction of your cohort, of like, you know, and knowing yourself to be distinct, and having not pulling away just because you're like, as I feel like Hermit, and like without the tarot to give us these, and like the Hermit, the language of the tarot has helped my own personal lexicon and like association with certain words. But
yeah,
you know, people say the Hermit and there's supposed to be this like social animosity, I suppose, like imposed, like corresponding, and it's not that at all. It's that you have this inner prompting, this inner dialogue with the divine that is like driving you. It's like the Hermit has a mission. The Hermit is like given this sort of sacred task to go off on their own, to go and commune, to go and gather this wisdom through a direct experience. Not the Hierophant is like, they're both these spiritual masters. They're all spiritual. The majors are all like spiritual masters in their own sense, but those two are really like highlighted as these transmitters of like spiritual knowledge. Whereas the Hierophant is more concerned with having masses and producing and publishing and like being recognized. The Hermit is another space of like interiority, of walking through the coldness, but following their own light, which is actually following the divine light, and by being a model, being an example to those around them of what it looks like to walk one's dharma. So live in alignment with one's own truth and be brave enough to do that. And then they thereby become a light unto others, not by trying to or engaging the rituals of the Hierophant and like having this like cultural hand like initiation of being like, you know, like you were, okay, my grandma was a curandera, or my grandma read cards or something like that. It's more of like, this is a path I'm discovering. This is like, I'm making a path by walking a new path. And there's a bravery to that. And then there's also a sense of wholeness. The Hermit is like an image of Saturn, an image, it's associated with Virgo. And there's this sense of like earthliness of seeking a deep self knowledge and like a self informed by like a divine relationship that keeps you warm and keeps you company when there's a lack of the more social typical mundane relationships that are a bit more shallow, because you know you're here to like do some major sort of soul work and like soul inquiry.
Yeah.
So I hope that
Exactly.
resonates. Okay.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
It's interesting, the 333 you said,
Mm.
like the 3 threes equaling the 9. I have a tattoo that the time is 333.
Oh my,
Yeah.
wow,
Super
wow,
interesting.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
that's a really cool thing.
So that's the Lovers is all of the majors, I will say, right? Like this also, I love the tarot because it opens us rather than like the dogmatic one path one must follow. It's like there's 22 paths offered of how to reach the divine. And so the Lovers as a way to reach the divine, like, you know, we're all picking a different track. It's like Mario Kart or something, and we're like racing to the divine, and we're like chose our own vehicles. Chariot here also, maybe that's why I'm thinking that. But the Lovers is about choice. There's so much to say with all of them. I mean, it's about choice and consent and a relationship which brings you home to yourself. Like this person who has this space of you that you have to integrate and like awaken to, and then also be detached from in a sense, so that you don't own them and take away their ability to consent and choose the relationship. And so there's a lot about like what you're in a relationship with in this lifetime, and like how to balance your energy against another's and align the physical and the spiritual. It's a very Kundalini kind of activation card. Okay, I love it. And we've spoken about this in a personal thing, so I love that. All right, so we're gonna keep moving, and so we're gonna do our year cards, which is basically the same sort of process, except you take the current year. If my birthday is in November, so if I were to do 2021, this would be like for the coming year, right? And so I did 2020, which had me I'm finishing up a Chariot year right now. And so you can think of this card, I don't know I know some of us are new to astrology or like what have you, but it's a tarot version of solar perfections. And so you can also use them in conjunction with annual perfections, which can then offer much sort of insight into the year ahead for you, or the year that you're going through. Okay. And so you're going to add together your month, instead of your year of birth, you're going to add the year of your last birthday or your coming birthday. Okay. And so a solar perfection like activates a certain planetary lord, a certain house or two houses that are highlighted. And so I've been in a solar ruled year, highlighting home, fourth house. I have a Leo fourth house and a Taurus rising. That's also, again, an astrological manner. If you're familiar with that, like I think this would be a great layer to add on, but you don't need to know any of that, okay? And just maybe if you do, pay attention to any correspondences. But anyhow, the year, well, I'll be in a strength card this coming year. It was just funny. And it's for all of those who celebrate their birthday on like May 5th, 2021, right? Why did I put May 5th? Maybe it was, I think maybe I meant May 6th. I think I wrote 5th because it was the 5th month. But anyhow, so yes, you can calculate them. And then these are sort of themes or lessons to learn for the year, right? These are like the stage of like you're a grade, if you will, you know, like this teacher who's presenting itself, this other face of you that you're learning to integrate, right? And like work with. And so again, the Chariot, there's been a lot of focus on creating a vehicle for me to find sovereignty, and like this workshop being an avenue of that. My website, increasing tarot course offerings, like shifting the manner in which I move through the world, right? And so it's also, I think, very pivotal in that both my soul and personality card are the Chariot. And so you might want to pay attention to correspondences as well as that. Like when it's your personal card year, that might be an extra emphasis or a year of like deep importance for you. And so, yes. And so like another part of this is that we also have a collective year card. And so this, we're just looking at the year. And so for 2020, this was an Emperor year, number 4, reducing to 4. wherein issues of patriarchy, governmental authority, and personal power were highlighted, right? We are reacting to orders imposed upon us. We're reacting to structures of confinement, to also like awakening of personal power. 2021, a Hierophant year, responding to stress, and that the fives indicate this sort of stress, right? This sense of morality with a Hierophant determining personal and collective values. We get the whole vaxxer versus anti-vaxxers. We get like all the things happening right now, right? The shoulds and the oughts, corrective institutions taking forefront, right? All of the hospitals and just all this reform movement happening. Like there's been a lot. There's also been looking to teachers, the South Node in Sag and personal faith, which has been like, if you're familiar with, again, astrology, the nodes have been in Sagittarius and Gemini. The South Node in Sagittarius, which is the Sagittarius, the sign of the guru, has really been exposing a lot of problematic teachers of the spiritual craft, or a lot of appropriators, or a lot of people who are maybe needing to be just challenged in that way, and like a lot of the dogma imposed cleared away. And so I think that's really interesting to see from a tarot perspective. And again, you're going to keep this reduced like from the 0 to the 22, or I suppose 1 to 22, right? And some experimental uses. This technique can be used for your home address, your work address, to get a sense of your home or work, or like, you know, how else might you use this technique? Like, I'm not sort of asking you. I would just reduce, I would just do, I'm like giving you guys all my personal information through this as for examples, but adding the numbers of my home address, just the 5417, reduces to the star, and then the strength card, and so 17. And so it's very interesting because this has been a deep, you know, I spoke about my association with the star earlier, and like really finding faith and healing a lot of home issues. So it's just a fun way to sort of play around with, and like think about like the address of your work, or, you know, and like maybe there's a certain energy that's summoned there, like that you may be working with, and maybe even doing so with this knowledge before buying a home or before working in a certain space. Like, oh, maybe I want to work with this devil energy, perhaps, you know, who knows, but yes. Let me see. I'm going to keep going a bit. Write these down, note them, because I do want to be mindful of our time. All right. And so perhaps at the end we can share and do things. And so is this fine? Do you all have this pretty simple, right? Do you have it down? Okay. I'm going to keep moving. Okay. The lesson and the opportunity cards. So minor and soul cards, right? The minors of each element are ruled by the major of that same number. So in here, we're returning to our sort of soul card, okay? The minors are lessons which we integrate and experience the larger lesson of the major. And so, for example, if your soul card is the Lovers, then all of the minor sixes are your lesson and opportunity cards. Does this make sense? So you're getting the 6 and the elementals. And this is actually how I structure and organize my tarot course. Should you want to enroll next year when it opens up again, just saying, shameless plug. These minors bring the soul archetype into the daily sort of mundane trial and error experience, right? While the majors describe the soul's larger journey of growth, the minors are a place of integration. The minors correspond to the elemental suits, or to the elemental world, right? Like the 5th element being spirit and soul, and this like cosmic, like karmic, big purpose, and that we get glimpses of or scopes into perhaps at a pivotal moment in our life or major chapters of our life. But we obviously live a day-to-day existence. And so all of the minors, like if we're thinking of like, and they fuse together to make into like, there are different aspects of that major, right? What does the Lovers look like in the earth realm, right? What does that look like which is the body, which is in our resources and our time, and how we grow things over a long period, versus the watery relational realm, the psychic realm, right? The heart realm, dealing with water, dealing with the direction of west, of endings, right? Versus the air and communication, right? And integrity. The swords are all about integrity and choices we make, sacrifices we make for that relationship, right? How do we move away from, how does choosing something mean we're not choosing something else, right? Yes. And then the wands, right? The Six of Wands, the passion and the crowning of a victor. Yes, thank you. Yes, having those out. Dealing with passion, being seen, and like promoting the self. And I'm just using the sort of sixes there. And so if you're like Audre Lorde, though, however, none of us are, though, perhaps I know there's a couple people who aren't live with us here who'll be catching the playback. So if you're like Audre Lorde with the personality soul cards of the Sun, Wheel, Fortune, and Magician, you have both the aces and the tens of each suit as lessons and opportunity cards. The ace is the seed, is the invitation, is the promise, and the 10 is the fulfillment, right? So we're getting the ace for that Magician, and then the tens for the Wheel of Fortune. And so for that person, there's a lot there. It's a lot of lessons to be integrated in that case. And so these minor cards, again, may show up as situations you found yourself in. They may be familiar for you depending on your deck. They may be people you've worked with. If you're noting, if you're pulling them and you get them in your practice, oh, okay, this is like associated with my soul card or with my personality card. Okay, this is an aspect that like, it's giving you another sort of link into the minors now, right? Like we've gone from the majors and the such, and now you're having like a little personal hook in of like this little personal ragtag elemental team, your sidekicks, right there for the major. And so seeing when they appear, when they've appeared a lot again in relationship to others, it's like, oh, okay, I'm working with these. All right, so let's see. Any questions or anything? Just let me know. You can like definitely unmute yourself at any point. I'm gonna keep going. All right. This is zodiacal correspondence. And so checking our sun, moon, and rising, I mean, I definitely recommend the whole chart. It can get a little bit more involved. We're not gonna get into that today. But the sun, moon, and rising for sure. And so I have them listed here for you. And so we'll start with the zodiac, right? Because the major arcana does associate with the zodiac and with the planets, but we're going to start with the zodiac. So for instance, I am a Taurus rising. And so with my rising, that's the Hierophant, right? And then I am a Scorpio sun, so death, love death. And then my moon is a Libra moon. And so I have justice, right? And so those would be sort of like my sun, moon, and rising cards. So again, if you can pull these out, because I do like, so you're getting this larger image of like your personal cards within the deck. Out of the 78, we're gonna get however many after, right? And so it's like, I will say as well, knowing these correspondences have been the key, like within reading, say if you're reading for yourself or another, or in a relationship reading or what have you, eventually memorizing these correspondences give an extra layer of refinement to your readings. I always sort of start with the associations before going into the image description and like what's coming up. And so for instance, I was reading for these sisters, and we were doing a relationship reading. And so I had a card for one sister, a card for the other sister, and then a card for what was like sort of binding them, or the energy of like the combined energy. And the devil came out. And I was like, okay, well, we have I immediately just noted Capricorn. And they were like, oh my gosh, our mom. and their mom was a Capricorn, right? Or is a Capricorn. And then that was like totally led into the reading in a whole other way. You know what I mean? And then it was like, it took off there, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm so glad. Like, again, I sort of have these practices in place because you never know what's going to be a hook on someone. It uncovered a face. Capricorn, I will say as well, like all of these things have multiple faces, right? So say you are a Capricorn and you're like, my mom's a Capricorn. And I tell her that it's the devil. She gets like all upset, you know, all these things. But there's like Capricorn in the minor, so as we shall see shortly in the courts and such. But it's important to know this as a face. You know, it's opposite, its relationship to the sun, it being the nadir of the earth. The devil depicts our soul's journey into the underworld in order to free the lead, of like the repressed consciousness and like surface some sort of gold there. And so it's a necessary confrontation. It's our shadow face, right? And so we need an image for that as well. And the hard earth of Capricorn in winter is where we may learn that. And so anyhow, again, it's like important to know as we're getting this constellation of cards, when a certain face is appearing, right? Like, and what that says. If you are, again, there's Queen of Pentacles is a Capricorn as well. So it's very different distinction, right? Should you see the Queen of Pentacles versus the Devil? What is that saying about how you're relating or like what you need to see about yourself? Okay. The ruling planet now. And so if you have questions about this, I can tell you, I should have maybe noted that, of your sun, moon, and rising sign. So if you're a Leo, then the sun is the actual ruling planet, which corresponds to the sun card. Okay. If you are, the moon corresponds with the high priestess. So say you're a Cancer, okay, then the high priestess is the ruler of like that. So if me being the chariot, like the chariot, my soul card, the high priestess would correspond with that, right? The magician is the Mercury card. So if you have a lot of Mercury in your chart, Mercury is on the ascendant. If you have a Virgo, if you're a Gemini, then the magician is that ruler. And you can think of them again as this relationship. We're getting an image of the environment with the zodiac. And then like the stewards are the animating energy with the ruling planets, okay? Venus is Empress, or associate with the Empress. And so like I have the Taurus rising and the Libra moon, right? So I'd have Justice in the Hierophant, but then I would also pull out the Empress because she's ruling those two. And so she's very important in my life. Mars rules the Tower. I mean, is associated with the Tower, that male phallic principle. I mean, just come on now, right? Mars is just shooting forward, right? Also the ego and the destruction of the ego thereby, because it's too much. And I love the Tower. Ruling Scorpio and Aries, the Emperor, Death and the Emperor, okay? Jupiter, the Wheel of Fortune. Again, the astrology, the one who makes this cosmic order out of things. Ruling Pisces and Sagittarius. So Temperance, Sagittarius, and the moon in tarot. So that the moon gets a little tricky with the tarot because we actually have a moon card and then the high priestess. I hope that's clear, right? The high priestess is the astrological moon, and then the moon card in the tarot is associated with the sign of Pisces. Okay, okay. So Jupiter would be corresponding to those. And Saturn, the world. So again, like ruling the devil, Capricorn, and then also the star Aquarius. And I love as well the world as an image for Saturn, because Saturn is often seen as the devil, like card imagery. It's often the old man or the hermit, or like, you know, it's just like the restriction. But in the world, we get this sense of celebration. We get this knowledge that Saturn does want us to come to maturity and does celebrate our process of maturity. Okay. Uranus is the Fool. It's like, you know, you can place it at the beginning or at the end. The Fool is sort of like that link that go around. And it's that divine impulse to destroy everything and establish this chaos in order to free us of a stagnancy. It's like the Fool just has this magic. It's that principle of freedom, that willingness to lose face in order to do something radically and authentically true to yourself and be seen as the Fool, but you're really commenting on power and how Uranus subverts Saturn, the structures, the authority, in order to have a commentary on that power and to exist outside of that institution. That's the sort of full Uranian energy. Neptune with the Hanged Man, going into the waters, being subverted, being confused, being held, the state of inner searching, right? And then Pluto is associated with judgment. You can use modern rules. I use traditional rulership, but it's up to you. So then if Uranus would correspond with Aquarius, Neptune with Pisces, and Pluto with Scorpio. And so Pluto is judgment. Again, I love the gates of hell open up, we reemerge into the world, all the things, right? All right. So again, pulling your ruling planets for your sun, for your moon, and your rising. And so again, if you're a Leo sun, okay, maybe not a Leo sun. If you're a Virgo sun, then you're going to pull the Magician, right? If you're, because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. If you're a Sag rising, then you're going to pull the Wheel of Fortune for Jupiter. And if you're a Capricorn moon, you're strong. Just say if you have Capricorn, and you'd pull the World, okay? Because we love a Capricorn moon. Okay, I hope that's clear. All right, so now we're gonna look at the court with the zodiacal correspondences, okay? And so consider again how a new aspect of yourself is reflected in the various images and associations, noting that the pages are like the aces, which embody the whole of each element or suit. All right, and so that's why we're not seeing any pages here, because they are just like the whole, with that sort of that full nothingness quality to them that is like everything. But anyhow, now we're getting into the court. So we've got some minors, we've got some majors in both aspects, and now we're getting the court to give a full sense of relationship to the tarot, right? So the Queen of Wands is Aries. And so I relate the queens. All of the queens are the cardinal signs. Okay, Queen of Swords, Libra, cardinal air. Queen of Cups, cardinal water, Cancer. Queen of Pentacles, Capricorn. Okay, noting your queen. The kings are the fixed of each element. And so the King of Pentacles is associated with Taurus, ruled by Venus, ruled by Empress, right? King of Cups, Scorpio. Very different image than Death. Okay, we'll say. Ruled by that Mars, that Tower card. Again, maybe like, oh, there's just a lot there. The King of Swords, Gemini. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not, I was like, wait, I read King and it's not. King of Swords, Aquarius. King of Wands, Leo. So again, the fixed of each element. Again, Leo being ruled by the sun here, Swords ruled by Saturn, the star there. And so I sort of always do the so dual. I go into the like, it's a fast association. It's pretty easy once you sort of do associate them. With King of Swords, you know, I know Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. So then I go star, Aquarius, the world, Saturn, right? And I'm getting like these dual association. Okay. The knights are the mutable of each element. So Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces, because the knights are in movement. They're in a state of transition, right? Like mutable energy, which is the transition of a season, right? It's the moving from one season into another. Okay. And so again, if you paying attention to your primary placements, you're an Aries rising, you're a Taurus moon, you're a Gemini sun, then you'd work with the Queen of Wands, King of Pentacles, Knight of Swords. More faces for you. Okay. And this is clear. We all good? Keep moving. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so now there's a lot of associations, y'all. We're checking the minors. All right, so each of the minor cards, again, except the aces, correspond to a range of 10 days within each zodiacal season. So this is based upon your birthday, based upon your actual birth date. And this is the decan association, okay? So it can be called your zodiacal lesson. And so for example, if you were born between December 12th to 20th, then the 10 of Wands is a corresponding minor, the third decan of Sagittarius, or mutable fire. So the decans is rather than a 30-day month, it's a 10-degree of space. It's 10-day period. So we'll get into these, okay? So you can note your birthday here. Again, you will get these slides for reference. If you were born, just noting your birthday, and then you're pulling them out. So again, March 21st to 30th, 2 of Wands, March 31st to April 10th, 3 of Wands, April 11th through 20th, 4 of Wands. Okay, if you're born, so those are the Aries cards. Those are the Aries 3 minor cards. The Taurus cards are the 5, 6, and 7 of Pentacles for April 21st to 30th, 5 of Pentacles, May 1st through 10th, 6 of Pentacles, May 11th through 20th for the 7 of Pentacles. The Gemini minors are the 8, 9, and 10 of Swords. The May 21st to 31st for the 8, June 1st through 10th for the 9, June 11th through 20th for the 10. All right. Again, these are I think what the tarot does give us is a full range of like somewhat challenging images for our natal placements, and then also some affirming images, right? And so that's nice. The Cancer cards, the Two of Cups would be June 21st through 30th. The Three of Cups, July 1st through 11th. The Four of Cups, July 12th through 21st. And so you may know as well that these are also the cards associated with the period of time we're in. Okay, so I was doing a 10 series on Virgo, and it's September 17th, right? And so the card for this period of time is the 10 of Pentacles. So you might want to also work with it in that way. So I offer that. The Leo cards are the 5, 6, and 7 of Wands. The first decan of Leo is July 22nd to the 1st, August 2nd through 11th for the 6 of Wands, August 12th through the 22nd for the 7 of Wands. The Virgo minor cards, again, for the whole Virgo season, I mean, we're working with these 3 cards. And then if you have your Virgo birthday, you'd be 8 of Pentacles with August 23rd through the September 1st, September 2nd through 11th for the 9 of Pentacles, and September 12th through 22nd for the 10. The Libra cards, there's my Libra moon with the 2 of Swords, all right? September 23rd through October 2nd, October 3rd through 12th for the 3 of Swords, which again, it's helpful because the 3 of Swords, say if you are Libra, and that is like, maybe that card's coming up as an aspect for you to, the 3 of Swords is kind of a hard card, right? Like people are like, ouch, when they pull that card. But if it is a card that is natally associated with your moon or with your sun, then there's a deeper relationship to be had with that card. And I will offer, just because I brought that up, that I hold that card as like the badge of the true heart, sort of my like shorthand for it. It looks like an actual badge that you would get in like a Pokemon gym or like Boy Scouts or something like that, right? And there's sort of an initiation in that energy. So anyhow, October 13th to the 22nd for the 4 of Swords. The Scorpio minors, so 5 of Cups for October 23rd through November 1st, which is like the most Martian card ever. It's so goth. Is dressed all in black, like, you know, looking over the poured water. November 2nd through 12th. So my birthday is November 10th. So the 6 of Cups is the Sun in Scorpio. So when that card comes up, I'm always like, ooh, you know, I sort of enjoy that card versus like the death card for the Sun in Scorpio. November 13th through 22nd, 7 of Cups, Venus in Scorpio. So you can also do this if you know your full placements as well. Like, well, they'll get listed there. Maybe I didn't include that there, but that's maybe the next level. Sagittarius cards, we're almost there. November 22nd, 3rd through December 2nd for the 8 of Wands, the 9 of Wands, December 3rd through 12th, December 13th through 21st, the 10 of Wands. So for those, if you were born, you know, between those dates, then maybe like a lesson is to really like not overwork that body, you know, to really protect that body, take a rest. Capricorn minors, the 2, 3, and 4 of Pentacles, December 22nd through 30th, 31st through January 9th, and 10th through the 19th. The Aquarius minors, 5, 6, and 7 of Swords, January 20th through 29th, 30th through February 8th, and February 9th through 18th. And finally, the Pisces minors are the 8, 9, and 10 of Cups. We love the 10 of Cups. February 19th through, I believe meant to put 20 through, what do I mean to put here? To the end of February. The 9 of Cups being March 1st through 10th, and then March 11th through the 20th. And so sort of our last point here of exploration are significators. I love this just image of Venus. And again, all of these mirrors that we've sort of been exploring in the art, these little cherubs holding up these mirrors, about to crown her. And she's like, oh, me, it's me. Okay, so a significator is a card that is chosen to represent the querent in the reading or the subject of inquiry for the reading, right? So it's a way to proxy the person or persons into the visual reading. You know, we're like, okay, we're placing you in this space. We're entering this world, opening this map. And the person then exists at the same symbolic level as the cards providing the response, which is sort of what we've been doing through our own cards, irrespective of any reading. These are existing outside of a reading. right? Now I wanted to touch upon the reading aspect. So it is typically, like, significators are typically chosen using the court cards and their astrological correspondence. So if I was like, okay, I'm doing a reading for myself and someone else, and it's like, I'd pull the King of Cups for the Scorpio card, right? And then say I was working with a Capricorn, okay, I'm gonna pull the Queen of Pentacles. And I would choose those first and either place them in the center of the reading or just depending on the layout of the spread, right? And then like pull cards around that, okay? That's one manner. That's the sort of more traditional sense of like working with them. Although I offer like an expand that you can choose the significators more intentionally to represent the intent, the purpose of the reading, or the subject of concern, which allows us to select a card from the entirety of the deck. So we might select the Moon card and the Sun to speak with our inner child, right? You might select the High Priestess to commune with our inner psychic. You might select the Chariot if you're asking about your car, if you're asking about like a mechanic, if you're asking about forward movement, if you're asking about agency. But and I want to sort of give broad definitions to like increase our versatility and use of them in that way, right? Maybe the High Priestess is like, oh, should I go with this reader? And you're asking for a specific like psychic or teacher or something of that sort. The moon and the Empress you can pull to represent the mother. Maybe I want to have some exploration around my own mother. I'm going to pull the mother in the tarot, or my father, the Emperor in the tarot, right? We might select Justice to examine legal matters, bring in the element of truth, right? Bring in a higher judge, help me see the situation objectively, type of thing. We might select Temperance to connect with our guides and our angels. And then of course, the Devil to speak with our shadow or to speak with Saturn in our birth chart. You can also pull these now knowing there's a zodiacal astrological correspondences to say, oh, I want to talk with my own Mercury. Okay, so I'm going to pull Magician out, and then I'm going to do a Mercury-based reading, right? Or Saturn, and pull the Devil or Capricorn or Aquarius out, or the World out. Okay, so there may also be, like, rather than pulling out to go back to the courts at the beginning of the reading, some leave them in the deck and then pay special attention should it turn up in the reading, right? And paying attention to the cards it's with. It's like, okay, there it is. And that does happen, especially if you start going with that intention and ask for like, okay, I'm going to shuffle you back in, and now I'm going to find you. Some people will go through the entire deck and see the card before and after, right? Okay, and so often cards will turn up to connect with specific people in your life, typically showing their influence on you or the situation. This is really how the court card shows up as well. I mean, the courts, as I sort of teach and hold, are this 16-fold personality schema that we all have within us. Like, we have the entire court within us. It's more traditionally taught that the court cards do represent other people in your life. But then I feel that makes it hard for us to connect with them. Again, it's like, we have an Empress. We are the sovereign internal queen. We have an Emperor. We're the external manner of that. And then the elemental aspects are how we relate our sovereignty on each of the planes. Though the card cards are like very clear. If you're asking about a boy and he's an Aries or something like that, you're gonna get that King of Wands or something like, or that you're gonna get it. They'll come through, right? So just sort of paying attention in that way. And so I offer it again is like shuffle. You can shuffle, see how it comes up. You can choose so intentionally. You can choose a major as well. Those are sort of the purpose of significators, is to almost distill what we've been doing with this visual proxy for another person or within any particular reading, okay, but in a simpler or streamlined process. And so this final quote here, Mary Kay Greer, whatever these cards are called, they primarily represent the roles, masks, our sub-personalities we wear and with which we identify ourselves. There are many ways to determine the roles you play in the different aspects of self. Let's take a look at all of these facets of you, which are like the mirrored faces on a disco ball, reflecting different things under different lights. And so consider how these various images of you correspond to the different roles you play, or masks you wear in life right now, in the past, or perhaps you wish to embody in the future. Maybe even make a list of these roles. And like, maybe that's mother, sister, daughter, teacher, work, or however you are showing up in these roles, and maybe taking your cards that you have already, like your personal cards that we've just gathered, shuffling just those and laying down a card for each of these roles to see how it's sort of aligning, right? Does that make sense? And so, yes, I leave you with that. Does anyone have any questions or just final offerings or insights or anything like that? I'm going to stop the share now.
This has been so amazing. I'm sorry that I was like driving and stuff at the beginning, but I'm going to go back and watch. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you. I'm so glad you showed up either way. Like, I really do appreciate that, because I know it's easy to not if you're driving or what have you. So thank you.
I also wanted to thank you. That was incredible. I mean, there's a lot to take in, but I can't wait, like Marissa said, to just go over everything and keep watching. And thank you to everyone who was here. And it was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I echo all of that. Thank you so very much. This is like, I've been following you for a little while, and I'm so fucking delighted to find you as deep and personable and sincere and inspiring excitement in us and connection in us, as you always seem in your recordings. I'm so delighted. Thank you. I also have a question, which is that I know I have questions, but I can't like put them into words right now.
There'll be more workshops, and then should you want to learn tarot at like in a fuller way, I do offer a 11-week tarot course, like a fully comprehensive course, and it's closed right now. I'm in my last sort of offering of the year, but it will open up again the next one I'm thinking will be January, but it will open sometime at the end of the year to enroll should you want to just
Awesome.
deepen, but yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. You'll definitely see me in that class. I found you through Sabrina Monarch, and I was like, this seems perfect. And so this was like my test run for doing the class, and I'm so in. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so glad. I love Sabrina so much. She's in this run, so it's like that's also so cool of like my class.
Oh my god, awesome.
And it's the best time, honestly. It's really the best time. So thank you.
I can't wait. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, oh my gosh, have a beautiful Venus Day. As you may know, there's also planet daily correspondences to the planets, so I hope you know them. Today is Venus's day, tomorrow Saturn's day, Sunday, of course, Monday, Tuesday is Mars' day. Now I have to finish. Mercury is the Magician's day, Jupiter for Thursday, and we're back at Friday. And so Venus was squaring Saturn last night. Maybe you were feeling a little bit challenged or focused on self-worth and integrity and like what's worth going the distance. But again, I hope that this tarot gives you some things to meditate on and like some images for yourself, and really, again, connecting to your own particular deck that you were drawn to. Finding, again, this sort of beautiful multifold archetypal mirror for your own soul, and then paying attention to the years that you're going through, that wherever you're living. And yes, please do stay connected. Ask me questions, and I will see you all on the other side.